Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Let's start with something that might hurt a little. Cheating doesn't start in the bedroom, it starts in the mind. Long before someone crosses that physical line, there's a quiet betrayal taking root. And what's terrifying is that most people don't even notice it happening, not until it's already destroyed something they once swore they'd protect. Before we go deeper into this uncomfortable truth, make sure to subscribe and like this video, because what you're about to hear might just save your next relationship or reveal what's secretly happening in the one you're already in. Cheating doesn't explode out of nowhere. It evolves, slowly, silently, almost politely. It starts with a thought, a harmless conversation, a small emotional connection that feels safe. You tell yourself, it's just a friend. You rationalize. You suppress guilt because you're convinced it's nothing serious. But in psychology, we call this the first stage, the seed of disconnection. At this point, one partner begins to feel unseen, unheard, or emotionally neglected. Maybe it's not even intentional. Life gets busy, words get shorter, eye contact fades. You stop asking each other deep questions. You stop listening. So when someone new gives even a sliver of that missing attention, it lights up the brain's reward system. Dopamine floods in, whispering, "Finally, someone sees me." This is where emotional danger begins, not because love disappeared, but because validation did. When someone feels emotionally malnourished, they start looking for scraps elsewhere. And if those scraps come wrapped in charm, laughter, or a little mystery, it triggers attraction at a subconscious level. The tragedy: most people don't intend to cheat, they slide. Step by step. Each moment feels innocent enough to justify. But when you add up all the little harmless moments, the extra texts, the secret smiles, the shared jokes, a line quietly vanishes. You see, the biggest myth about infidelity is that it starts with lust. But it doesn't. It starts with loneliness. With a moment of emotional hunger that someone else unexpectedly feeds. And that's the danger of the first stage. You rarely recognize it until it's too late. And once the seed is planted, the second stage begins, where emotions start to shift and the connection becomes something deeper, darker, and far harder to control. The second stage is what psychologists call emotional attachment displacement. It's when the heart begins to wander, quietly, invisibly, long before the body ever does. At this point, the person who's vulnerable to cheating starts giving emotional energy to someone new, the kind of energy that used to belong to their partner. They start sharing personal thoughts, frustrations, maybe even dreams. They find comfort in that new person's voice, the way they listen, how they understand. Conversations that should happen at home are now happening somewhere else, at work, online, or through late-night messages. It still feels innocent because no one's done anything wrong. But something crucial has already shifted. Emotional intimacy has left the relationship. You start defending that person in your mind. You downplay their importance. You tell yourself, "They just get me." That's the emotional betrayal taking form. It's subtle, it's intoxicating, and it feels good. That's what makes it dangerous, because your brain starts to associate that person with relief, comfort, and connection. And when you feel those things consistently from someone new, the attachment grows deeper. At this stage, the emotional walls between you and your partner begin to harden. Conversations with them feel heavier, colder. You feel misunderstood, maybe even criticized. But with this new person, everything feels light and easy. You laugh more. You feel seen again. What you don't realize is that your brain is rewarding this forbidden connection, giving you dopamine for doing something that's slowly dismantling your relationship from the inside. And here's the twisted part. The more guilt you feel, the more you try to rationalize your closeness. You start to hide things, not because you're a bad person, but because you don't want to lose that feeling. You delete messages. You change names in your phone. You guard the emotional affair like it's something precious. This is where most people convince themselves they're still loyal. They think, "I haven't done anything physical." But emotional infidelity is like emotional gravity. Once you start falling, it's nearly impossible to stop without hitting the ground hard. What started as loneliness is now emotional dependency. You crave their presence. You replay their words. You compare your partner to them, and every comparison makes your partner come up short. That's when justification begins to form. The quiet permission that leads to the third stage, the point of no return. The third stage is what I call rationalized betrayal. The mental battlefield where guilt and desire collide. This is where the mind starts rewriting reality to protect the heart from its own actions. It's when the person begins convincing themselves that what they're doing isn't wrong. It's necessary. It starts small. My partner doesn't care anymore. We've grown apart. I deserve to be happy. Each sentence is a tiny moral escape hatch. These thoughts ease the discomfort of betrayal by turning it into something that feels justified. It's not cheating anymore, it's connection. It's not lying, it's protecting peace. At this point, they start idealizing the new person, seeing them not as they are, but as a fantasy. Every smile feels electric, every conversation feels alive. In contrast, the partner at home begins to look dull, difficult, and distant. But that's not because they've changed. It's because emotional focus has shifted entirely toward the forbidden. This mental rewriting is dangerous because it transforms the person's identity. They begin to see themselves not as someone who's betraying, but as someone who's escaping pain. The brain rewards this illusion by releasing oxytocin and dopamine, chemicals of attachment and pleasure. These biological reinforcements deepen the addiction to this new connection, making it feel even more real than the original relationship. And as that illusion grows, secrecy becomes second nature. Suddenly, there are new boundaries, passwords, deleted histories, unexplained absences. Lies become smoother, excuses sound rehearsed. They're not even consciously manipulating anymore. The double life just feels normal. The most heartbreaking part? The betrayed partner usually senses it. They notice the emotional withdrawal, the shorter replies, the fading warmth. But when they ask what's wrong, they're met with defensiveness or anger, because guilt has turned into projection. The one who's cheating begins to accuse their partner of being too controlling, too paranoid, or too negative. This is the silent breaking point, the moment when connection is replaced by contempt, and contempt is the single greatest predictor of relational collapse. What happens next is no longer emotional, it's physical. The fantasy demands embodiment. The mind has already justified it. The heart has already crossed it. And that's when the fourth stage begins. The actual act of cheating, where illusion finally meets reality, and everything changes forever. The fourth stage is where fantasy finally steps into the real world. The physical betrayal. It's the moment when lines that once felt sacred dissolve in a rush of adrenaline and emotional chaos. For some, it happens in a moment of weakness. For others, it's a decision they've rehearsed 1,000 times in their mind. Either way, once that line is crossed, something irreversible occurs, not just between two people, but within the person who cheats. The body might feel pleasure, but the soul feels fracture. Because in psychology, every forbidden act carries a shadow, a quiet, suffocating guilt that lingers long after the moment ends. That first physical betrayal changes the way the brain processes attachment. The cheater's mind starts oscillating between excitement and shame. It's a push-pull dynamic of craving and disgust. They miss the thrill, but they hate the lie, and that emotional split becomes unbearable over time. After the act, reality no longer feels clean. Even the smallest gestures, a hug, a text, a kiss on the cheek from their partner, carry hidden tension. Every word, every silence feels loaded. They start compartmentalizing their life, one part loving, one part lying. But no matter how skilled someone becomes at hiding, the subconscious always leaks truth. The tone changes, the eyes avoid, the warmth fades. The body tells what the lips won't. And here's the paradox. The moment they get what they thought they wanted, it stops feeling special. Because cheating isn't about love, it's about escape. It's not about finding someone new, it's about not facing something old. And when the rush fades, they realize the truth. They didn't cheat because they stopped loving their partner. They cheated because they stopped loving themselves in that relationship. This realization usually comes late, when they see the look of confusion or heartbreak in their partner's eyes, and suddenly the fantasy feels small. That's when guilt mutates into panic. They tell themselves, it was just one time. It didn't mean anything, but the brain knows it did, because the act of betrayal rewires trust, not just the partner's, but their own. They lose faith in their ability to stay loyal, to be honest, to choose integrity over impulse. And as guilt takes over, the final transformation begins. The cheater must now live in the aftermath, where every lie demands maintenance and every truth threatens collapse. This is the emotional reckoning, the stage where consequences can no longer be avoided. The fifth stage is the one most people never talk about, the collapse of self. Because cheating doesn't just destroy trust between two people, it shatters the identity of the one who betrayed. This is where guilt turns heavy, constant, inescapable. The mind becomes divided, one part clinging to the secret, the other drowning in shame. At first, the cheater tries to carry both worlds. They play the role of the loving partner at home and the passionate secret elsewhere. But slowly, the weight of the lie begins to crush them. Every affectionate word feels counterfeit. Every "I love you" tastes like hypocrisy. The brain, now overloaded with cognitive dissonance, starts creating emotional numbness just to survive. They don't feel as deeply anymore, not joy, not love, not even remorse in the same way. They drift into emotional detachment because it's easier than facing the truth. And when that happens, their behavior changes. Some become distant, cold, even irritated by their partner's presence, not because they've stopped caring, but because they can't stand being reminded of what they've done. Others swing the opposite way, becoming overly attentive, affectionate, even apologetic, trying to mask guilt with gestures. But no matter the pattern, the damage has been done. The partner, meanwhile, senses it all. Maybe they can't prove it, but they feel it. The silence, the avoidance, the strange new energy. Their nervous system starts mirroring the tension. They question themselves, their worth, their intuition. That's the cruelest part of betrayal. It doesn't just destroy trust, it rewrites self-esteem. And the cheater? They start to lose peace. Sleep becomes shallow. Simple conversations trigger anxiety. The secret becomes a constant background noise, humming inside their chest. Because every lie, every cover-up, every fake smile, it compounds the internal war. Some will confess, not out of bravery, but out of exhaustion. Others will double down, hoping time will bury the evidence. But psychology is clear. The human mind is not designed to carry deceit indefinitely. It erodes empathy, it alters neural patterns, and it eats away at emotional stability. This is where many relationships end. Not from the cheating itself, but from the collapse that follows. Yet a few survive. But to do so, both people must confront what most can't, the raw truth of why it happened, and the pain required to rebuild from ashes. And that takes us to the final stage, the aftermath, where real healing or permanent loss begins. The sixth and final stage is the aftermath, the emotional reckoning. It's the moment when silence finally breaks, secrets spill, and two lives stand face to face with the truth. Whether it's a tearful confession or a brutal discovery, the impact is always the same. Time splits into before and after. Nothing ever feels the same again. For the betrayed partner, this moment is disorienting. They replay every memory, searching for signs they missed, the late replies, the sudden distance, the gut feelings they ignored. They ask questions not just to understand, but to make sense of their pain. Was any of it real? Why wasn't I enough? These are the words of someone whose reality has just been shattered. And for the one who cheated, it's the first time the fantasy collapses completely. The thrill dies, the dopamine fades. All that remains is regret, and the haunting realization that they've broken something they can never fully restore. This is where true self-awareness begins. Because when the masks fall, when the excuses no longer work, people finally face themselves. Some will still run, blaming their partner, blaming circumstances, anything but their own choices. But others will break down and confront the uncomfortable truth. Cheating wasn't about attraction or temptation. It was about emptiness, a void they tried to fill with validation instead of vulnerability. Healing, if it happens, is brutal. The partner who was betrayed must rebuild their sense of worth, learning to trust their intuition again, to believe that love doesn't always mean blindness. And the cheater must confront the hardest question of all: what part of me allowed this? Real redemption isn't found in apologies. It's found in accountability, in sitting with the discomfort, changing behavior, and rebuilding integrity piece by piece. Some relationships survive, many don't. But every person who goes through this comes out different, wiser, maybe colder, more guarded, but also more awake. Because when you've seen how fragile trust is, how quickly love can erode when honesty disappears, you learn to protect it fiercely. So if you're watching this and you've ever been tempted, or you're standing at that first emotional crossroad, remember this: cheating doesn't start with a kiss. It starts with a choice. A choice to ignore the small cracks instead of repairing them. And every time you choose honesty over escape, you protect something sacred, not just your relationship, but your own peace of mind. If this message resonated with you, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and share your thoughts below, because the truth we don't talk about is the one that keeps repeating itself.